Hi, Beat. This is right? Beat is your first name.
Yes,
What was your first computer?
Commodore 64.
Oh, what is your first action? A game?
Yes, I guess I played probably Paperboy or something.
Paperboy
You,
was great. I remember
yes.
that. And recently, there was a video clip. So I look at that, and this was like this was a guy I think on a bike which distributed the papers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You could throw papers. You should throw them in mailboxes, but you can also throw them at people and cars.
yeah. This was fun. Okay, nice. And the next one?
And the next computer, you mean?
Yeah, next game. No computer.
The next game, I think winter games or summer games, where you could,
Oh, this is a
do
joystick destroyer.
snowboarding and
Joystick
yeah,
destroyer, right? So you have
yes.
to move very fast back and forth.
Well, the actual joystick destroyers were the games where you had to run,
Yeah,
and then you needed to move the joystick left and
back and
right as
forth.
fast as
Yeah.
possible. But on very young age, I found out that I could cheat here because I took an old controller and I ripped out the cable and I found out which connections would mean left and right. And then I
Okay.
made a device of wood with 3 nails in there with the cables connect, and I could move the device back and forth really fast, and then I could beat my brother or sister in the running game.
Ah, this is how the Morse alphabet happened.
Yes, about like this.
Okay. What's you keep playing or you start hacking or what's your first line of code?
Probably print something. So it was in Basic on the Commodore, and I probably was first printing text and stuff, and then I started reading some programming books, and then I read about sprites and peek and poke and stuff like this, but I didn't really understand it. So I think the first games I made, I was typing them
First
from a
games.
book.
So wait a second. Why you started programming at all? So why you not kept gaming?
I got bored of gaming, and I found out that I could make the computer do what I wanted it to do, and that sounded interesting.
Okay.
So I started fiddling, with programming basic a little, but I didn't really know how. But we had some books, and maybe it was also in, I don't know, in the newspaper or something. So you would type listings from the book into the computer, and then you would run it, and it wouldn't work because obviously you would have made typing errors. So then I would try to find out what typing errors I made, give up, start all over again, and this was basically my first programming experience.
What I really enjoyed is that you could actually save the basic games on a tape.
Yeah,
And
definitely. Yeah, we had a diskette drive, so that was even faster. But what sometimes happened is while I was typing a game, and after typing like 5,000 lines, my brother would combine and shut down the computer because he wanted to play soccer with me or something, and then I need to start over again. So this was also where I first learned about the frustrations of programming.
Is this you have an older brother?
Yes.
Was he more powerful than you?
He was taller than me and also a bit stronger. Yes.
Okay. That's a problem. Okay.
Yeah.
So there were first resilience patterns and fault tolerance probably happened because you had
I learned. The computer was in the attic, so I learned that whenever I hear somebody walking up the stairs, I need to save the program.
Oh. I suppose even now, right? So this reminder of your
childhood.
If you hear someone on the
Whenever my children walk up the stairs, I start pressing Command S to save my Java code real quick.
Okay. So that it could be a horrible at a conference, right? So if you're on stage, constantly saving because someone is moving. Okay. So with Basic, you already programmed some games.
Yeah, well, I programmed some like text-based adventures because that was easy. I tried to program some games with visual effects, but I didn't really make it. I didn't understand enough of peeking and poking and stuff that you need to do to write sprites on the screen.
Okay. And then you forgot about programming, so it didn't work out. Then you shut down the computer and went
outside to play.
Yeah.
A little. No, then a couple of years later we got I think it was a 486 PC.
Okay.
And then I learned that you could program there with Pascal, so Turbo Pascal, and I could make executables there that I could copy to my other friends' PCs and break their PCs, etc. And that was always a nice thing to try, right? To see if I could get Smoke to exit from their PC. I managed once when I installed a program on the computer at school, and the teacher went away for a while. Then he went back, and then his computer was smoking.
Okay, and how you did it? So this is actually interesting.
Well, not that much. It was, I think, a utility I built that would make it easy to switch directories, but probably there was some loop in there that made the computer a bit more active than it should be.
This is so even one more reason to save often, Because in this
Yes.
particular case, it wouldn't help, I think.
No, definitely no. And then when I so I was programming Pascal, and I could also do some visual stuff, and you could write assembly in there. But I was kind of missing like somebody to help me with this because I was the only kid in my class who knew how to program in Pascal. So then my parents bought a modem for the computer,
Okay.
and I
Which one?
used this modem
Do you remember?
28K8. So one of the not the slowest one, but a fairly slow one.
But
Because
you
later
remember the
came
brand?
26K.
Because back then, modems were a big thing, because I had
Yes.
lots of investigations and...
I don't remember anymore. It was gray and it had red lights.
Okay,
But
this is
most modems were.
everything. Mine was almost black, and this was the US Robotics Sportster. And in Germany, we also had the Elsa. I remember that it's always interesting. It was so fun, little hobby to get the fastest modem.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So, but using this modem, I started calling bulletin boards, which were basically like decentralized hubs that you could call over the phone, and there would be software running where you could basically chat with the person operating the board and upload and download stuff. And there I got to chat with some others, and there I learned about the demo scene. Have you heard of the demo scene before?
Yes, on my podcast actually, and someone created back then like small movies or sound and stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a computer art subculture where people create, for example, demos, which is a small program that does something, or indeed music or graphics or videos. And I got in touch with some other people and learned to program better there, also in assembly. And the nice thing with it was that by then the internet wasn't really around, but people active in the demo scene wanted to get together to show each other what they had made. So then you would go to a demo party, which was basically a huge, for example, gym hall or a university where 500 or 1,000 people would come. They would bring their computer and the monitors, hook everything together, and there you would meet, show each other things, and also show the productions you had made to each other to see who had made the coolest demo, for example.
Which demo you made?
A couple ones. I was a bit active in the this was called the intro competition, where intros are typically stuff you see when you had cracked the program and you would add some visual effects like before. And these had size limits. So for example, you would need to make an executable that was at most 4 kilobytes. So you need to make it really small. So for example, what we worked on was, because we also want music in there, so we had a real small music player, but we couldn't put any samples in there because samples are audio files. They're fairly big. So we generated these samples. For example, a sine wave can be a piano, a hi-hat is basically just noise, a drum is a sign that where the period becomes longer and longer over time, and this way we could create some rudimental music in only 4 kilobytes. It was pretty cool.
Something like vector graphics for music, right? So similar.
Yes, you could call it like this. Yeah.
Incredible. So this is actually incredible what you can learn, in a young age.
Yeah,
because
I think I started. Well, I started programming, I think, when I was about 8 or something, and then started.
8?
Yes, I think on the Commodore 64. But I didn't do much. And then once we got the PC, I think it was in secondary school, so I was about 12. And then when I went to university on 18, I was basically, I was studying computer science, so I was programming anyway. So
okay. So you did, and this demo scenes was with assembler, I guess, right?
Yes, Pascal and assembler. Yeah. So
on the 486.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And what happened after assembler and Turbo Pascal? So what was the next language? I suppose C.
Yes, a bit C, and then DirectX and stuff came. But for me, it kind of stopped with Pascal. And then when I got a bit around years of 16 of age, I got interested into other things like, girls and stuff.
Oh.
And then I didn't program that much anymore.
Hey, girl or go?
Oh, it was a bit early for Go. No, I said girls.
Yeah, right.
So, and I didn't program much anymore until I started to learn Java in the university.
Oh, and you like that? Or you said, okay, go away with Java?
Well, it was again a way to make a computer do what I wanted it to do. And they were teaching us Java, and I liked the Java right from the start because it was fairly understandable for me. At that time, I'd say that applets were still fairly popular.
Okay.
I experimented with that a little. I think the first serious program I made was like a chat box or something, I think, for a project.
When you learned Java, which version was it? You remember?
1.2. It was in 98, so probably Java 1.2.
Okay. And so you create applets, and okay, what's interesting is you were already very skilled with assembler and Turbo Pascal. So I ask you whether you like Java, because usually it would mean Java is too primitive, because if you have the power and you then get public static void main, and I would ask myself, is it a toy language? What is it? There's no pointers, no pick and pokes.
I needed to unlearn procedural programming, basically, because in Pascal there was not that much of object orientation.
Yeah.
So my first couple of programs, I didn't use the new keyword once. It was only static stuff, because that was what I was used to.
Yeah.
And then I think it even took me a couple of years before I kind of started to understand the concepts of object-oriented programming, because I already knew how to program. I didn't really need to pay attention during the classes. And when I was doing assignments, it was still okay me writing everything static, because I would make the assignment, but not in a nice object-oriented way. So there was always the feedback that I got, and I thought, oh yeah, well, who cares about object orientation?
Yeah, of course. So reminds me on a project I was in a big enterprise project with PL1 programmers or RPG, and they wanted to use Java, but it was really hard for them to understand objects. And I was asked to write Java code without objects. So basically, what I did is I wrote a lots of static methods, because this was very similar what they did. And a kind of funny fact, and you did it at university.
I remember even when Java 5, I think Java 5 came, there were static imports. So this was heaven for me, because then I could static import stuff from everywhere.
I like static imports because it makes everything shorter. So I really enjoy static imports right now.
But for me, it was a way to still stay away from object-oriented programming.
Wow. But Java 5 is 2005?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So what you did recently about the university with Java? What was your first applet? So I'm really curious. Was it like, Quake?
I don't really remember. No, probably. Well, maybe even still kind of like a demo scene effect.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like a plasma, for example.
Yeah.
Do you know a plasma with all these colors that's going?
Yeah.
Probably that.
Yeah, but this is hard to implement, actually, right?
Yeah, well, if you know the concepts of adding up some sines and cosines and cycling some colors, it's doable. I actually
this is like, well, if you know.
No, but I'm not really deep into math. I actually hate math.
Okay.
But since the math is fairly simple, it's still doable. I actually did it, I think, a year ago in
this is the greatest, the greatest podcast so far. I hate math, so I just use math to do some plasma animations, but this is too simple.
No, I did it about a year ago in JavaScript. Also created a plasma. It actually went fairly well with APIs you have nowadays on writing on a canvas and stuff. So
it means if you now would learn a new programming language, you always start with Plasma, right?
Yeah. Well, if it needs to be visual, so if I need to make something that displays something on a canvas, probably with a Plasma. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. At one point of time, you had for sure a Plasma TV, right?
Yes, and it was only showing plasmas all the time. So
Okay, nice. So what was your first or the next project beside applets in Java?
Let's see. I think we built for a project at the university. We built a system that would decide whether the Netherlands has always been active with water, right? Like around 1953, half of the Netherlands flooded because there were really high water. Okay. And then we decided to build like barriers across the sea with gates that can open and close to keep the water out. Okay. And I think the first project was that we needed to write software for a test setup where we would measure the height of the water and then determining on the patterns of the water rising would send instructions to close the gates or not. And we actually had like an aquarium at the university with sensors. Okay. And then the project was to basically process the sensor input and then do something with it.
Okay. So a little bit mission critical, I would say, right?
Yeah, well, for the aquarium, not really. But in general, yeah. But I don't think they actually used our actual code.
No, because there was no catastrophe so far, as I remember. No, there was nothing in the news.
Or they did, and it worked.
Okay. Almost right now, you will sell it as artificial AI because you learn, from the patterns what to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
And was it like a matrix multiplication involved a little bit or no?
No, it was mainly measuring the water level and then projecting how fast it would rise and if it would go be above some threshold or something.
This is a little bit math again, right? Because at least you have
a little, a little, yeah. And I didn't enjoy it, but still, I needed to because it was a project I needed to do.
Okay. And something else interesting at the university time? Or no?
Well, in my final project, when I was doing my master's thesis, I built a text classification system. So it's basically a natural language processing system that could analyze a set of training data. So it would, for example, be directories with in every directory text files on a certain topic. For example, news articles. So inside the country, outside, economics, sports, etc. And then using Java, I could build a model of each category where I would look at the features of the different texts. So ideally, you're looking for parts of words or combinations of parts of words that you see a lot in one category and not in the other categories. And based on this, could create a model where you would feed a new unknown document to it. It would say with 85% confidence, it should be in this category.
Okay.
And for example, you could use this to automate email responses from help desk, for example. If you're pretty sure that this is a question about my internet is not working, then you can send back the canned response from have you tried turning it off now and again, for example.
That's interesting. And
yeah.
Is it still around? You could open source on GitHub. It would be a nice project, right?
Yeah, but things have changed a bit. So this was around 2006, and then I was using some machine learning toolkit from I think the University of Waikato in New Zealand because it was the only one that was around.
Okay.
But now years later, the concepts are still the same, but hardware has changed a lot. So now we have TensorFlow models that can do this in a half second or something. Back in the day, the hardware was kind of a limitation. So at the company where I was doing this, there were about 8 people, and I would stay in the office late till everybody went home, and then install my application on all the computers so that it could run through the night to train the model, for example. And then in the morning, I would come in again early to gather the results and make it again together for like one model. So it was an interesting time.
You can now do something for the Raspi.
Yeah. Yeah,
this would be a fun little project which reads emails and classifies the emails. This would be really interesting. Actually,
yeah, so it's I'd say that the ideas around how to do this are still the same. They haven't changed, but the tools have evolved. With cloud solutions and stuff like TensorFlow, etc. It's easier to do nowadays. Probably what I worked on for half a year then is now 2 lines of TensorFlow code, I guess.
Yeah, but still, this is actually a real AI project. What you did. Now you can sell it. Okay.
Even though, yeah.
Okay.
Even in that time, yeah.
And why you did it? Was it assignment or was it your idea?
Yeah, well, I was doing like an assignment at a company that was working on language technology at that time.
Okay. What I did is a little bit different, but the project Sphinx?
Yep.
Oh, this was a speech recognition, right?
Yeah.
And there was FreeTTS. It was you could speak in Java. And what I did, a very, very simple, almost like Alexa, but it was 2003, I think, or before. With that, so you can learn simple commands, and it's like a switch loop, and he would understand me and say something. This was fun, actually. I never understood why they have to send everything to the cloud, because simple commands work like that, right?
Yeah, I think you'll have some pre-trained model that will recognize voice, etc. And I think nowadays that there are systems that are good enough to do this just on a chip or something.
Yeah. Okay. What you did after the university? So what was your first job?
Well, my first job, I lived in a student dorm at the campus in the university.
Mm-hmm. And which university was it? Do you remember?
At Twente, in the kind of the east of the Netherlands, fairly close to the German border.
Okay.
And it's a campus university, so there's like a couple of 100 student houses where you live with students all together. Mm-hmm. A real fast internet connection, so that was a pretty good place to live. One of my housemates who finished his study earlier, he went to work at a company in Utrecht, and he came by after and he said, I'm working at this company and it's a bit nice. We're doing stuff with Java, and it's kind of like combining pre-built components with new stuff for clients. And if you're ever interested, then maybe we should talk and I could introduce you to the company. Yeah. And I said, okay, that doesn't really sound too interesting, so maybe I'll talk to you later. I went back to my room, and 5 minutes later, I had an email. So I heard that you wanted to work at a company. So can you please send your CV and a motivation? And I said, okay, well, let's do it. And then I started to work there. And it was a company that was building software for insurance companies. Okay. And we did it with Java 1.4 and basically the servlet specification. So servlets, JSPs, etc. Relational databases. No struts. We had an in-house build framework, which for that time was pretty cool. Well, it's probably still fairly much the same now. So I don't think it changed that much, but it handled stuff like database independence, for example. So it could generate queries for Oracle, DB2, server, etc.
And how long you stick at the company? You enjoyed the job, or was it boring? Or no plasma involved, obviously.
Yeah, no, I worked there fairly long. I think I started there in 2006 and left in 2013. Maybe 2011, I think. 11 or 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then why? You wanted a new challenge?
Yeah, I found that I didn't really learn that much anymore there. So one of my colleagues took me to an event by the NLJUG. It was a Groovy workshop, I think, at a company. So I went there and I thought it was nice to learn something new. And then at the end of the workshop, it was like a 3 evenings workshop. There was like a challenge who could build, I don't know, a REST client the quickest or something.
Okay.
And I won that challenge. So next day I got approached by the recruiter if I wanted to work there. And after some thinking, I said, okay, let's do it. And then I started in a project with Groovy, I think EGB3, I think. Okay. And it was running on JBoss, I think. So it was all things Java EE, fairly new for that time, also in combination with Groovy. It was a nice project, but I also learned there that I mostly like to use Groovy in test code and not in production code.
Okay. Yeah, it's a strange combination, EJB with Groovy on Whitefly.
Yeah, it was nice because there was all smart things going on that would automatically generate stuff, but for me, Groovy had some nice ways of handling collections, etc. But also some nice pitfalls of shooting yourself in the foot while handling collections. So.
Okay, so you didn't like the collections, so you quit the company, I guess, right?
No, so I worked there for about 2 years. It was pretty nice. Did some pretty cool projects with new technology, and then the company got acquired by a hardware company, and I knew that this was the end of doing fun stuff there. So then I started to look around. I had become active in the Dutch Java community then, so I was visiting events and was therefore getting to know other companies. So I was thinking, like, what do I really want to do? I want to work at a small company close to my home with only good people. So that's when I joined JPoint, a company where I've worked for about 5 years. And that was pretty cool. I did consulting there with various clients, all fairly modern stuff. So I worked with Vertex and Spring Boot and the Amazon Cloud and all kinds of nice frameworks. And after being there for about a year or 5, I thought, wow, it would be pretty cool to start a company of my own with amazing people and build a cool team there. So I did this 3 years ago. I started OpenValue together with somebody that I knew from the NLJUG, the Netherlands Java User Group. This is 3 years ago, and now we're about 25 people in our Utrecht office, and we have some other offices in different locations.
Yeah, you invited me to NLJUG, right? Was it NLJUG?
NLJUG, I think you spoke at JSpring last year, right?
JSpring, yeah. And then I got I was invited, like, hey, there's a company from Bert in Munich.
Yeah.
I say, oh, really? And then I was invited by some of your, Munich, how to call it, CEOs, right?
Yeah.
And then I delivered a talk, and it was fun. And this was and then I found about OpenValue, that is actually your company, right?
Yeah. So we basically our model is very simple. We want to have fun, have good people who want to keep developing themselves and share what we've learned. So because we were basically, we met each other through the NLJUG, and from there sharing what we've learned have always been in our DNA. So you regularly see us at conferences. Well, not in the past half year, but before we would regularly present at conferences. We give a lot of trainings, tech talks, etc. So we really like to work on amazing projects and then tell the world about what we did and hopefully help the communities a bit in that aspect.
So, have you used Quarkus recently? I'm just curious.
Some experimenting, not in production at clients yet, but we have done some experiments with it. And what I liked about it is, a couple of things. I liked the developer experience, how fast you can develop, auto reloading, etc. I like the fact that it has pretty good support to compile to GraalVM native images, which I think is good if you want to run on serverless stuff, for example. And I also like that it seems fairly doable to migrate an existing Java EE application to a Quarkus application because of compatible APIs, etc. So I think it's a really good chance for companies that want to modernize their Java EE applications to investigate Quarkus. And this is exactly what we are doing at one of our current projects, investigating whether this would be an option to do so.
Yeah, this is also what I'm doing. So it's actually fairly simple to migrate. So if you have some EJBs, they can basically replace at stateless with request code and transactional and ready to go. And this worked really well with Quarkus. So, what are you usually doing in your company? So what's your project in OpenValue?
Yeah, we do consulting, so different projects at different clients. But the typical stack we use is Spring in the front end, Java or Angular or React.
Angular or React?
Angular or React. That's typically the
you know both?
Well, at least most of our people know at least one of them, and some know both. Yeah,
you have experience with both?
I have production experience with Angular and toy experience with React.
If you know React, is it easy to go back to Angular for you?
I don't know. I like Angular because it's really structured and I don't need to think about that much things, you know. If I want to have a routing, there's routing. In React, I need to think about which routing framework I want to use for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Angular is also really structured. It forces you to work in components, etc. And it's fairly similar, I would say, to what we know from the Java and Spring world with annotations, etc. So I like Angular, but probably because I learned Angular first. And if I would have learned React first and then looked at Angular, I would have said this looks complex.
No, for me, it's just Angular is like application server in the browser. I don't get it. And React for me is okay. And what I actually do, I think this is what I also was my talk in OpenValue in Munich, I guess. But what I'm doing right now in some projects, we are completely removing actually Angular and replacing with nothing, with web components.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
And you know why? Because the larger companies, they don't like, the fact that Angular comes with 2 versions a year.
Yeah.
And if you wait too long, you have lots of security stuff, and the build doesn't work. So this is actually what I wanted to know your opinion about that, because React, for instance, if you take a look at React, this is very similar to web components and lit HTML. You have basically nothing, so you can pick in our router. Web components are ready to go, and Angular, as you said, is the entire abstraction. So everything is abstracted. So it ships with everything, which of course is huge, right? So if you install Angular, it downloads 25,000 JavaScript files. Which
I think the Hello World Angular application is about, if it's compiled, about 200K or something, I think, which is fairly large.
Yeah, but 200K is not the problem. The problem is the build system on your machine. There's like 25,000 files.
Yeah, but the end users don't bother the build system on a machine, right?
No. So the problem is, if you have larger projects, you have to keep your build system running.
Yeah.
If you wait too long, it can be painful, to upgrade your build system.
Sure.
That's the problem. The production will work. And you have experience in Spring, right?
Yeah.
And now Quarkus. Is there any difference for you, or are they comparable?
I'd say that the concepts are comparable. It's an easy, lightweight way to, in most cases, make REST endpoints. For example, what I like about Spring is that there's a huge ecosystem where lots of you can basically get everything you need in a Spring library. For Quarkus, I'd say this is still developing. I do like the developer experience of Quarkus a bit better, where you get, auto reloading by default, etc. There's always a trade-off between just adding one dependency and then you have, you have security in your application or so, for example, because your job as a developer switches from debugging your own code to debugging someone else's code. So in general, I like simple solutions and simple frameworks. I wouldn't call Spring Boot simple. It is easy to use, and lots of people know about Spring, and therefore there's lots of adoption in companies. So for me, what's also interesting is what's the adoption in the market. If somebody would ask me now, like, what Java framework would I learn? Then I would say first, learn Spring Boot. Second, learn Quarkus. And third, maybe learn Java EE or Micronaut, based on what I know in adoption in projects at our clients.
But Quarkus, it ships with microprofile, and microprofile is Java.
Sure. Yeah.
There's actually, for me, there is no difference between Java and Quarkus. And if you look at Quarkus, you will find, internally it's actually lots of white flash stuff that is based on Vertex and REST Easy, and actually whatever you know from whiteflies is in Quarkus inside.
Yeah, so I do think that the Quarkus will be solely responsible for a light comeback of Java EE. I think. Yeah. So that's probably a good thing for the Java EE world.
Yeah, and why I didn't knew that we will actually spend some time talking about Quarkus, but I was just curious because you said, what I actually found very late was very late. So the history was, we had Whitefly and JBoss and so forth, and then we got Whitefly Swarm and Thorntail, and I never understood this. Okay, why are you doing this? Is just there's no difference for me between Whitefly Swarm and the full Whitefly, so no. But and then Red Hat pinged me and they say, okay, there is something interesting. So, okay, never. I mean, what you will probably do is the Whitefly Swarm Mini or whatever, and this will be 2K less than the other Whitefly. And then I took a look at Quarkus and I saw that it's completely different. And I think the revolution there is the observation that you don't need a deployment and you can optimize like crazy upfront. Yeah. And this changes everything because at runtime, there is no more class loading, there is no more XML parsing, and this is why it's so crazy fast. And I mean, they didn't optimize there. No, they changed the way how applications are built. And this is what I really like. So, and this coupled with the fact that it's very easy to migrate from stock Java EE applications to Quarkus. So if someone decides, you can just, migrate to Quarkus, not necessarily to be smaller, but there are more APIs. It ships already with OpenID Connect and Kafka and AMQP and MQTT or whatever. So it is the huge ecosystem which extends, the basic Java EE.
Yeah, I think it was a real smart move to go for Java EE compatibility because that was the space that needed something new, I would say.
Yeah, and this is good, for marketing and good for, and it actually, you can save 50% of memory comparing with any other runtime. I had never compared it to Spring Boot. I have to admit, I have almost no Spring Boot experience, but what I did, I compared with Whitefly, with Tomcat, and with Jetty, and it was always smaller. And this is remarkable, actually. Yeah. Where is the project?
Especially,
what are you building with Quarkus right now?
I was just experimenting with Quarkus a little for to get to know it a little. So there's no production project there. Just making some REST endpoints and seeing how to do next. I am planning to use Quarkus for a serverless backend of the events app we have for the NLJUG. So when you're, for example, you go to JFall, JSpring, we have an app, and in this app you can vote. You can vote on sessions. Okay. So the nice thing is that this is the ultimate use case for serverless because during the entire year there will be no requests at all. Yeah. Only during JFall we might have 1,500 requests per second if everybody votes at the same time. Yeah. So it's really good to have a serverless solution for this. So currently this backend is running in Spring Boot and it's running on Amazon on just VMs. And whenever the conference is, I scale the VMs from 0 to 4, and then I know that it can have enough load. But then during the conference, I also need to pay for the load balancer that's in front. So still, this will cost me maybe $30 or $40 or something for one event. While as if I could run it on AWS Lambda, for example, as a Quarkus application, then serverless becomes interesting. I couldn't do so far because if I were building in a Spring, then I would be looking at a couple of seconds of startup time when the first request comes in. This is too long. I don't want my visitors to wait too long before they can rate the session. But if I could go for Quarkus and make a native image that will start up in 0.0001 second, then it's ideal for serverless approaches. And then probably it won't cost me anything because with Lambda you can get, 10,000 requests free per month or something. And it scales infinitely. So, and then I have in the backend, I use DynamoDB as a database, which also auto scales. So probably it will infinitely be scalable and it won't cost me anything, which is nice, I would say.
I don't know whether you saw, but I would say 2 months ago, I recorded a video, or this was a talk for how is called it, Guild 42, which is like organization in Switzerland, in Bern, try to make the city of Bern more attractive. And what I recorded a talk is serverless with Quarkus, and I pushed it during the talk to as an Amazon Lambda image. So this is the surprising part is with Quarkus, you can actually pick any JAX or REST resource, and which can be multiple classes, and then push it as a Lambda function. You don't have, to use this strange Lambda SDK, so you can just have exactly the same app, wrap it as a Lambda.
Do they package do they package it then as a what's called a native runtime? So just a zip file with a binary in there or something?
This happens automatically. So you can decide whether it is native or not. During the talk, I used the JVM image first. And then used package to native, and you saw the difference. So it starts faster. There is
so I think that that GraalVM is the thing that made Java compatible again, a competitor again in the serverless space, because before it would just start up too long. With native images, it starts up as fast or even faster as a Python Lambda or a JavaScript Lambda or a Go Lambda. So
but this is no more that important, because what I noticed at Amazon, they are very good at pre-caching the Lambdas, so the long startup times are over. So what I noticed,
I think it depends on whether your Lambda stays warm or not.
Yeah, exactly.
If they keep it running, then it's fast. But if it's down for a while, they will scale to 0, and then the first request will take some time. And once you scale up, the first request of every scale action will also take time. So therefore, startup time still matters, I would say.
So we need EJB pooling again.
Maybe, yeah. But that is an interesting point, because if you have pooling and caches in general, because if you have your application running all the time, you can have a cache or a pool in memory. But if your Lambda scales back to 0, you need to externalize this pool or this cache, and then maybe you need to use a Redis or something else that survives Lambda restarts. So to say.
Exactly. So I thought about it recently. Something like connection pools for database don't make any sense at all, because you have one Lambda node which calls the backend. So if you would use, let's say, Postgres prepared statements, you would have we need complete different approach.
Yeah, so probably there will be some new cloud services emerging that handle this for you. So, for example, connection pooling for a database or stuff like this.
What I remember, it was probably 10 years ago. I think it was Oracle Database announced that they can have caching for prepared statements without connection pool for PHP back then.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So lots of PHP projects relied on that, because they didn't have, I never understood it, but they had no concept of connection pooling back then. And something like this could be useful for Lambdas, right? So they only have to remember in their database, okay, this is the client ID, and from this we have this prepared statements already, the pre-cached, pre-cached and pre-compiled statements.
Yeah.
So what are you doing right now? Is this just hacking Quarkus?
No, I demoted myself from developer to manager. So I'm mostly helping our team find the best assignments they have. I do some consulting for clients every now and then to help them with stuff like continuous delivery and DevOps. But I'm not doing any full-time projects anymore, just some hobby projects.
No plasmas.
Well, I did a plasma in the past year or so. So I'll send you the link afterwards. It's in JavaScript. And
you have to.
Cool,
I'm really, really curious. So send me the link with your plasma. So I'd be really interested. So now you're degraded to manager, and you enjoy it.
Well, yes, there are good parts and bad parts. So sometimes I think back on the time when I was working as a consultant, just focusing on one project full time. In hindsight, that was awesome. Now I need to focus on 1,000 projects at the same time, so to say, because there's always something going on. But on the other hand, it's also nice to be able to help a group of amazing engineers with finding the best projects they can and help them progress in their careers and help them, share what they've learned and coach them a little. So I think I still get enough fun with tech, but it's more like in a distributed way because my colleagues are working with amazing things and they tell me about it and I can help them with it.
Okay, so you just get the interesting stories afterwards.
Yes, yeah. But 25 stories in parallel, so it's more than I can do it just by myself.
Yeah, you need almost serverless, lambdas to consume all these stories. One question I would like to ask about Quarkus, what you didn't like about Quarkus. This is more interesting because...
I think it still needs to prove itself to be capable of handling production workloads. I think not many people are running Quarkus in production yet. So what I don't like is that it's not proven technology yet, but it's a matter of time, I think. So
I can assure you we are running Quarkus a lot in production. It works.
Yeah.
And if we mostly run in Docker container, I cannot remember bare metal, and Kubernetes a lot. And this, even if Quarkus had some problems, with memory or whatever, because of Kubernetes, Kubernetes will killed the Quarkus and restart a new one. I think more issues or more suspicious would be, the GraalVM native compilation.
Yep.
This is where you could expect some problems. But the nice story is with Quarkus, in my project at least, that Quarkus is already so small on stock JVMs that everyone is happy with it.
Yep.
So we're not running. I can't remember whether we ever run Quarkus with the native GraalVM compilation. This is just a showcase. And one of the reasons is, I don't know what's in your project, but in my project, my clients like to have, their own JVMs. So they pay support for Red Hat or I don't know, and then if I would say we need GraalVM, which is open source from Oracle, or we have to buy support from Oracle, it will probably die.
Yeah.
And if I tell them it runs on day JDK, they are happy. So this is what I found with the adoption.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. We see this. It depends on the clients. So if the clients are full into open source, then probably it's adopt OpenJDK or something like this. Larger, more enterprise companies like financial institutions, they typically want a supported JVM.
Yeah, exactly. So if it runs on a supported JVM, it is in. Otherwise, it is hard.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Are you hiring OpenValue, or are you happy with 25?
Yes, we are. Well, our model is that we grow separate offices to max 25 people. So our Utrecht office is full. We are hiring in Rotterdam. We are hiring in Munich, in Düsseldorf, and in Vienna.
So do you have more than 25 employees then, right?
If you count them all together, yes. Everything in total, I think it will be more in the order of 85. But for my group of people in Utrecht is 25.
Okay.
So these separate offices have separate organizations.
So your secret plan is to take over the world, right? So you need in every major city an OpenValue.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Pooling of 25 developers.
But that would mean that we would have amazing presentations in every city around the world, sharing what we've learned, right? So that would be a good thing for the community.
Yeah, and we could use Quarkus on Lambda, to get the feedback.
Definitely, yeah.
Without paying any money to Amazon.
Yeah.
Cool. Where people can find you on the internet regarding,
You mean regarding me? Regarding me
or company, whatever.
Yes. Well, I'm the most easiest to find on Twitter at BJ Schrijver, which is my Twitter handle. You can find OpenValue at openvalue.nl, our website, or openvalue.de, openvalue.at. Just type whatever country you live in, you'll probably find us. I'm most easy to reach on Twitter. I spend way too much time there. So if you have any questions, want to reach out at BJ Schrijver on Twitter.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.